Welcome everyone. I did not expect this room to be this full, so thank you for your participation. I hope that you will learn something interesting and something useful maybe. So my name is Václav Pavlín and I will talk about how you should decentralize everything, which is obviously not that easy or even possible. So I'll introduce you to a few tools that I'm using daily that should actually help you to decentralize at least part of your developer tool stack. So what we will talk about today is, I'll introduce myself. Some of you probably know me. I'll tell you a story, or I will introduce the whole talk with a story, and then we will look at the tools, and I will attempt to do a demo, but as proven by Dan Walsh upstairs in his talk about Ramalama, internet is shit, so it might not work. And then I have some links to show you at the end. So who am I? As I said, my name is Václav Pavlín. You can find me online as V Pavlín, basically anywhere. I'm ex-Red Hatter. I've spent 10 years at Red Hat. I've worked in a systemd team. I worked on containers, OpenShift. I built something called Molecule that nobody really knows what it is, which is good, probably. And my last thing to build at Red Hat was Open Data Hub, which is now OpenShift AI. So I was in an AI team when it started. I love open source. I only basically do open source. I don't even have any access to any private repos at this point, probably. So you can find all my code through my GitHub repo. And I'm a core contributor in a company called Institute of Free Technology. The website is free.technology, and we build a bunch of open source projects that are focused on peer-to-peer network decentralization, building permissionless systems, censorship-resistant systems, and protecting privacy of users. So the projects I particularly work on is Waku, which is a communication infrastructure, but I also participate in a project called Codex, which is a decentralized storage system, and I really like another project of ours, which is Keycard, which is a hardware wallet that is completely open source from hardware to software. So happy to talk about all of these if you are into Web3 and crypto, but that's not what I want to specifically talk about now at the talk. I'm also a coffee snob, so I like coffee and I like good coffee, and I will argue about to you that the coffee I don't like is not good at any point during the day. And I'm a privacy nerd. I was not a privacy nerd. I didn't care about privacy. I was saying if I have nothing to hide, I have nothing to worry about. But the world is proving that that's not the case, and that privacy is important, and being able to hide some things is important, and it's kind of a natural thing to do. So the story. You are a very peaceful developer building some open source system. The anonymous mask is just for illustration. It does not mean that you are doing anything illegal. And you wake up, you brew your coffee, you sit down at your laptop to hack some cool stuff. Maybe you're building a new container engine to compete with Podman. Maybe you're building a new model serving engine to compete with Ramalama. But basically you look at your laptop and something is wrong, something is not right, something is weird. I cannot log into any of my services that I normally use, Google Documents, GitHub, my cloud instance. Like what the hell is going on? I'm not doing anything bad, I'm just building software. Yeah, I mean the software can be used for bad things, like someone can use my model engine to host spam bots that are spamming some networks, but like I'm just building something that is useful to other people, right? So maybe there was a new AI tool introduced in GitHub workflow, which just like glitched and marked me as a bad actor in the system, which already happened to people, and you can find how that got resolved. Maybe just an intern was overly cautious about like my software and be like, oh, I'm gonna flag this guy because he's doing weird things. I don't understand them, so I'll just flag it. But what do I do now, right? Like. What do you do if you can't use GitHub, if you can't use Google Docs? Like, it's weird, right? So that's why I'm talking about decentralize everything. Like, think about this scenario. It's very low probability that it will happen to you, but there is non-zero chance that it will happen at some point to some of the open source developers. So I've picked a few tools, like 6 categories in a sense, and I picked one tool for a category. It doesn't mean it is the best tool, it doesn't mean it is the only tool. It just means that it is the tool I know and I understand, and I'm happy to talk about it, right? So for documents, there is a project called Fileverse, and you can just use it by going to your browser and typing ddocs.new. If you do docs.new, D-O-C-S, you get to Google Documents. And it will open a new window with new document, and you can just write there. If you do ddocs.new, you get to this tool that I'm actually using here. I'll just, for the sake of it, I'll just exit my presentation. So my presentation is just a ddocs Fileverse document that I can, by clicking a button, I can convert it to slides. And by clicking another button, I can present. So that's what I'm using right now here. So you can see it actually works most of the time. No, just kidding. It's fine. It works. I promise it works. So that's the first part. So how do we do documents? Where is my slide here? But my laptop decided to be extremely slow this morning for no reason at all, and I was too lazy to reboot it. So that's where we are. Second tool I want to talk about is Radicle. Radicle.xyz. It's a decentralized alternative to GitHub. And I'll explain more about it, and I'll show you how it works, hopefully, if the internet permits. Next area is cloud. So I want to deploy something without anyone being able to prevent me to deploy it, anyone able to shut it down. So we need some open decentralized cloud. And if you are at Red Hat for some time, you may have seen attempts to build an open cloud. There was something called MOC, Mass Open Cloud, where they were trying to congregate compute and build a marketplace on top of that so that people can come, buy compute from various providers and execute code, run containers, do things like that. It never worked out. And one reason I think why it never worked out is because it didn't use cryptocurrencies. But that's just my opinion. But these guys, Akash, they actually did it. It actually works. It actually exists. You can just go to console.akash.network and I'll show you that. And you can just deploy stuff. You can just deploy containers. It is running Kubernetes under the hood. And random people in the universe are running Kubernetes, and you can deploy on their clouds, basically, through that. So AI assistants, nobody can code without AI assistants these days, right? Okay. So if you don't want to, like, every single type you do, you don't want to send it to OpenAI or whoever, you can use Continue.dev, which is an integration extension for VS Code. And it will allow you to basically do the same stuff with maybe a local model. Then there is funding. So there is this thing called Drips Network, which allows you to do funding for open source projects. And then Chat, which is something we built, is a status messenger. And I'll talk more about that as well. So I've already shown this. This is the Fileverse ddocs, something that I'm probably not supposed to tell you because that's something that they just told me in a DMs today. They are also launching Sheets alternative, like a Excel alternative next week. So hope they are not watching this stream. So this is the Radicle desktop, the desktop UI for Radicle. I'll show you how it works from the command line and on the web, so that you can see that. This is the Akash console, the kind of overview. So there is 70 active providers. I would say all around the world, but well, not really. There are some missing places. So if you have friends with compute in those places, maybe they can plug it in. But there is some serious compute: 21,000 cores, 700 GPUs, 150 terabytes of RAM, and 1.5 petabyte of available storage in the decentralized cloud. And I'll try to deploy something and show you, and you should be able to access it, hopefully, if everything works and if the internet works. This is basically just a screenshot of VS Code, but there is this chat window. There's the continue dev. I was not sure whether I would recommend it because they just last month they changed it so that it's much harder to actually run it with local models, and it's much harder to configure like Olama and all these things. And they try to push you through their cloud, and then like, I don't know. But it works, and I use it with my tiny model in a mini PC that I run at home, just like mostly for fun. This is Drips Network, and I think this is really cool. And I hate that people hate crypto in general, like open source people hate crypto in general, because this is very interesting approach to funding open source from my perspective. It allows you to define, like import your repo and then define dependencies and define maintainers. And then when someone donates to the project, it drips down to the dependencies. So you can have a whole dependency tree. Imagine like if Fedora was there, and then like you would have a Linux kernel and systemd and then glibc and like all these things. And you could, if you donate to Fedora, it would bubble down, like pieces of money would bubble down to the dependencies. They call it deep funding. And there are not only crypto and Web3 projects, like for example, Flask. If you know someone from Flask, just tell them they have $28,000 sitting there waiting for them to claim that repo. Like someone donated $28,000 to Flask and they like, we don't want the money. So there are non-crypto projects there, some of them already claiming, like from the Rust ecosystem, claiming this money and like getting funding through that. So I think that's a very interesting approach to funding open source projects and funding it sustainably so that even the smaller dependencies can get cut from very popular projects. And then the last one is status. So this is a screenshot from status communities, which is beta, and like we don't really market it much because it doesn't scale and it doesn't work properly yet. But it should be like a decentralized peer-to-peer alternative to Discord. But what status is, it's a crypto wallet and messenger where you can like connect with people and DM and do group chats, and that works pretty well. This community stuff is the coolest thing, but works the worst out of all of the things that we do there. So I want to do the demo. I rushed through the slides just so that if the internet is really slow, I can still make it to the end somewhat. So I want to create a repository in Radicle. I want to publish the repository in the Radicle network. I want to deploy the content of that repository on Akash as a service. So I'm going to just go and create a simple React application. Then I want to modify the repo, install some new dependency, change how it looks, create a patch, basically do a pull request, run through the whole pull request workflow, and then redeploy and see the change deployed on that decentralized cloud. So wish me luck. So what can we do here? I have this folder which has a bunch of projects that I've created in the past. I'm going to make it slightly bigger. So what I can do is I can do npx create React app, template TypeScript, and the name of the application will be DevConf talk. And hopefully it will work. So it will install, it will create the application, it will install a bunch of dependencies. It's going to take a bit of time. So in the meantime, I can show you probably the Radicle desktop application, which is what we are trying to, we're going to try to make sure that our code is visible there. So this is how it looks like. This is just for like visual representation of things. You can't do much here. But it's very new. They are at the version like 0.05 or something like that. So the desktop application is very new. There is a web UI that works better, and there is a very powerful CLI that you can use. I have a bunch of repos, bunch of experiments here. This repo is actually Hardwood is actually the Radicle protocol, and you can see that like they actually use it to develop. They use Radicle to develop Radicle. So you can go to issues. I think there are some comments here. 9 days ago. Yeah, so it's a standard kind of way of looking at the project, and then you can go and look at the patches, the pull request, which is what they call pull requests. So there are some open, some archived. I can just like randomly click one, and I can see there are no reviews, no discussion. I can see the diff. So it's a standard stuff. The way it works is that you run a node in a peer-to-peer network, and when you push and you publish, it will go, the changes in the code will go to the peer-to-peer network, and some nodes in the network will basically mirror your code. So as long as there is one node in the network that is mirroring your code, you're fine, and you will always be able to recover your code even if you lose your laptop or whatnot. Unlike with GitHub, if GitHub decides to shut down your repo, your organization, then it's gone. This is still running, so it's very promising. Can I extend my presentation by 55 minutes, please? So what we will do after this gets installed, we will use these 3 files. So I have this very simple Docker file. I'm gonna make it slightly bigger. I have this very simple Docker file. I'm using Alpine for no reason, but I just need Nginx. I need to tweak the Nginx config, but then I just want to copy the dist directory from my React application, and then I want to serve Nginx. So that's very easy. I've also defined this very simple make file that allows me to just like make, and it will build the container, push it, publish it, build the application, build the container, push it, publish it. And then this is the manifest that is used with Akash. You can see that it's quite similar to like Kubernetes stuff, and it is basically just an abstraction on basic Kubernetes deployments tailored towards decentralized cloud. So there is this section of like, I want to pay this much money for some amount of time of running. We'll see how that actually looks like when you try to deploy things. Yeah, this is still running, so there is progress, I guess. I'm just gonna open another Visual Studio Code here. It's not just internet; it's also my laptop, and I'm terribly sorry about that. Whatever I do at this conference, it just fails. Right, so I need to go to the DevConf talk. I forgot. So cd DevConf talk. Let's do it again. Let's see whether it may be finished. Yes. Okay, so that's good. I'm gonna copy over the files from here just so that I have them there. I don't have to write them again. So from that other VS Code, that should just work. Okay. We can try to run this, so we can do npm start probably, and it should start the basic React template. And in the meantime, so I don't know what it's doing and why it's not working. We can push the repo. So we already have the repository. So git status. Well, I've added these files. So I can also commit them, git add, Docker file, make file, and deploy, git commit, deployment. And what I can do now, I can initialize it. It's a Git repo now, and I can initialize it as a Radicle repository. So I'm running a Radicle node locally, so I can do rad node, and will tell me like how is it connected, some logs, stuff like that. So I can do rad init, which will initialize the repository. It will ask me for the name, description, default branch, and whether it's supposed to be public. So I say yes. This is how you address repositories in Radicle. It's a hash of something, basically a public key. Well, not hash, it's a public key. And you have your own identity tied to a private key stored in the device. So that's one thing to keep in mind, that you need to back this up. But basically, yeah, this is how you address it. So you don't have a very human readable name in the network, but then there is metadata containing that. But you can see that my repository got published to a bunch of nodes, synced with 6 nodes. So if I go to the Radicle desktop, I should be able to see the repo now, which should be DevConf talk. So it's here, and you can see this flower here, if you can see the flower. And says it's hosted by 9 other nodes. So now my repo is securely stored in the network on 9 other computers. If you're running a seeding node, which is the nodes that are actually like storing the repositories for access, you can decide whether you want to store everything that goes into network, which is probably not a great idea, or list repositories that you are interested in to be hosting. Okay, so we have the code, we have it running here, very basic stuff. Now what I want to do, I want to npm install Vacu Trollbox. I mentioned Vacu. Vacu is the project that I am working on, and I've built 2 weeks ago, maybe. I've built this vibe-coded project called Trollbox. If you're not familiar with Trollboxes, it's like this chat window that pops up in a website, and then you can talk to other people connected to that website. It's apparently very popular in like decentralized exchange space where people trading want to talk to each other and be like, oh, what should we pump? Yeah, I don't know. I never used it, but like people were asking about it, so like, well, I can try. So I've built this component, the React component, which you can just install, and then you can go to your code, and you can basically just integrate it by adding one line, mostly. And you just say trollbox. And just for the sake of being able to see other people's messages, I'm going to say ephemeral false is what I wanted to say. Ephemeral false, which will allow me to have the messages stored in the network. Now, depending on whether it's already installed or not, I can import it. It's not. So once it's done, I'll be able to import it. And I'm not going to go through the flow of deploying to Akash and then updating the deployment, because with the current state of the affairs, it would probably not, I would not be able to do it. But I will still deploy, hopefully, this final version, let's say, to Akash. No, okay. Okay, import, great. Now we should see this being updated. Running locally, maybe. I'm gonna run the make now. So I want to build the image. So I'm just going to write make. It's gonna build the web application, and it's gonna build a container image. Let me do one thing. Okay. It will build the container image. It will push it to Quay, maybe. Yep. Thank you. It will push it to Quay, maybe, depending on everything. And if not, then I can show you a deployed application. So in the meantime, because this doesn't seem like it's going to go anywhere, I'm going to go to Akash console, and I'm going to show you how it looks, and I'm going to just show you a working deployment, because, yeah, demos, live demos in a university internet with a lot of people. I was like, I'm gonna just use my phone to tether my internet to my laptop, and then I realized I'm underground, so I don't have any internet on my phone either. Oh man, this is bad. Why is it what? Decentralized on your laptop. It is decentralized on my laptop. Everything runs on my laptop. The problem is that if I want to make it available for you, we need some way to communicate. So we could establish a local hotspot, and then we could do it that way. But I doubt that it would be successful endeavor to do right now. This should be very fast, and it does not really do anything with internet, so I have no idea what's going on with my laptop right now. I'm just gonna plug in this. Maybe there is something going on with the laptop trying to throttle down the power. Anyway, so let's take a look at the Akash console in the meantime. So we have seen the Fileverse. We have seen part of the Radicle stuff. I will try to still follow up on that, but I don't think I will have time for that. So I just want to show you the Akash console now, and I think that will be just it, and then we can go to questions. I am terribly sorry for this demo not working well. Hmm? The Wi-Fi is down right now. That explains so much. So I will not show you anything. We can go to questions then, I guess. So there is this slide. There is this slide, and then I wanted to show you. That was not supposed to be there. I wanted to show you these last 3 lines. So yesterday we had a meetup called Logos Circles, which is a meetup about what we do. We're trying to build the decentralized communities and things like that. So there will be other iterations, and you can search for that. There is this campaign called Save the Songs, and I wanted to add a QR code, but I forgot. If you go to press.logos.co, so we are trying to help Internet Archive to protect themselves from record labels who are suing them for $650 million because they were trying to preserve some cultural history, and now the record labels are saying, well, but by doing that, you're also like costing us $650 million. I assume that you know what our Internet Archive is and that you are fans of Internet Archive because it's a lot of open knowledge stuff. So I'm not gonna go deep into detail about that. And then there is this project that is very new called OpenADP, and I'm part of that. Open source advanced data protection for everyone. So if you are following privacy issues, Apple and Google are offering you like very, very good encryption for the stuff on your devices and when you want to push it and back it up in the cloud, and it's amazing. But in UK, they have currently had to like step back and say, okay, we will have to push holes to this stuff, which was completely end-to-end encrypted, and we could not ever have accessed anything about that. But now we will have to poke holes into it because the UK government wants to have access in case of some potential threat from the user. So a guy from Google actually started this project, and what he wants to build, like his idea is not fully decentralized, but I'm bringing that like peer-to-peer networks and decentralization into it. His idea is to build an open source alternative to these systems provided by Apple and Google, where people would run these servers that would allow you to do encryption, decryption, using sharing and a bunch of other approaches, and then recover data and all these things, but basically being fully private, fully end-to-end encrypted without any risk of third party peeking into your data. So just wanted to point it out as I think it fits well with the community here. And since this doesn't seem to work much, I'm gonna try to reload at least the console for the last time, I promise. I will not do anything else, and we can actually go to questions. If the internet is down, then there is not much I can do to show. But I'll record the demo and I'll add it to the slides. The slides are already linked in the presentation, in the schedule, in the talk, so you can take a look at the slides. And I'll add a link to those slides to a video recording of the demo for you to, if you don't want to do it, if you want to just watch it, I'll make a recording. That's it. Yeah. Please ask questions if you have any.
Is Radicle censorship resistant? Yeah, the question is Radicle censorship resistant?
It should be. It depends on the threat model you want to apply to it. But there is no one in the network who can prevent you from publishing stuff. The question is, will there be nodes that are willing to host your code? And there is also no incentivization right now. So they have a token, but they don't have it applied to this model of like, I am hosting some code and I get paid for that. And it's like a missing link. So now it's all like altruistic. So I run a node, my friends run a node, and we host each other's code. The most interesting thing is that in GitHub, you have all the issues and all the pull requests are provided to you as a service, and they are outside of your repo. And I didn't mention that, but in Radicle, these information, issues, and pull requests are part of the repository. So if you clone the repository, you are also cloning all this information. So this is the console, and if I wanted to show you quickly here, then no, I'm not gonna go into that. So this is the console, and if I go to deployments, I should have my deployments here, and there is, I think this one will be the chat box demo. Yeah, I mean, it's censorship resistant to some degree. It's missing the incentivization, it's missing a few pieces, but from the usability perspective of an ordinary user, it is usable, and it is helping with this protection against a single central power. Other questions?
How do you host a Radicle node? Is it enough to install a Radicle desktop application or other steps?
So, no, how do you host a Radicle node? Not the desktop application. There is a Radicle binary, basically, or you install it, and there is a way to initialize it as a seed node. Documentation should be on radicle.xyz. There is like a Radicle, no. there is like a user guide, and then it's all there, and there is a seeder guide as well. So it should be pretty straightforward. So this is, sorry, I was gonna sneeze, but I caught it. Yeah, so there is a, it's useless. Yeah, there is a user guide, and I can point you to more resources. It is very easy, very simple to run it. No more questions? Okay.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask about Akash. How exactly is it decentralized? Do I myself provide my computer's computing power to everyone basically, or someone?
No, you don't have to. So by default, you as a user of Akash, you interact as a pure user. But if you have compute at home, maybe you have a mini PC, maybe you have a rack, it doesn't really matter of the size, you can provide the compute to Akash Network. You run a provider code, a provider daemon in a sense there. You spin up Kubernetes. They have tutorials, and again, they have helpers for that. And then the provider daemon connects to Akash Network, connects to the blockchain, and basically when people try to deploy something, I can try if that actually will work. If you try to deploy something, the provider will bid for your deployment. So there will be providers with no GPUs, there will be providers with H100s, H200s. So based on what you need from the hardware perspective, how much RAM, how much CPU, the providers will bid, give you price for like, I want $1,000 a month from you, I want $10 a month. They will always provide different level of security and different level of SLA, of stability, of reliability. So there is a question of that. But then you pick one, and basically you pay to that provider through blockchain to host your application for a given amount of time.
So basically I can get paid if I provide.
If you provide storage, if you provide compute, yes, you can get paid. If you have a GPU that is reasonably powered and you don't use it at home, then definitely go and provide it to Akash. If you go to Akash GPUs, there is a list of available GPUs. This is what I wanted to show you. This is what I was supposed to build and deploy. So this is the Trollbox, and you can just like chat there. It works. I was gonna try to deploy something. So here is just a list of GPUs available in Akash Network. So you can rent an H200 for $2 something an hour. So it's actually pretty cheap because the providers compete with each other for the price and for the users. There is reasonable utilization of these. So like there are even smaller, older GPUs, less powerful GPUs that are sometimes useful. Like I use them if I want to play with something and I don't have a 20 gig GPU at home or 48 gig GPU at home. I will rent this for a couple hours, play around with stuff, and then I will maybe deploy it on a better GPU later on. So even providing this type of compute is useful to the decentralized cloud. Yeah. Any other questions?
Is there any system how to evaluate how much you can trust the providers?
I can repeat the question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is there any system in place where you could evaluate how much you can trust providers? I don't know. I can imagine anyone can do it.
Yeah.
They see all your data.
So first is I've proposed to Akash that we should build some kind of reputation into the system. So I, as someone who deployed with a particular provider, can submit some kind of rating for them. That would help to some degree. At least you would immediately see if there are crappy providers. You would avoid them. Second part of the story is that they do auditing of providers. Like they send kind of auditors to the data centers of the providers if you want to get audited. And then basically you can get some kind of a report of like, yes, this is an audited, verified provider, and we trust him as a decentralized cloud to provide good service for our users. And then you can check that you only want to see audited, or you want to only deploy on audited providers. I keep bitching to the founder of Akash of like, the security model is broken from the perspective that I am running on someone else's computer, and they will see all my data and everything I do there. And his answer, and I think it's a valid answer, is, well, this is the same with traditional cloud providers. There will be employees that can see everything you do, and you trust them with that. but we at least cannot prevent you from using it, and we cannot shut it down if you pay in a decentralized way to the provider. So the risk from the perspective of seeing your data is probably the same level, similar, not same, similar, but there is a different kind of benefits that you get and different kind of trade-off that you have to make. Maybe one last comment on that. They are also working on adding TE support, so that would probably help, because then everything is executed in trusted execution environment, and you could basically rent a compute or GPU compute in a TE, and then that gives you a bit more security with that. But it's not there yet. It's still being work in progress.
Okay, I'm sorry, we are out of the time, so...
I'll be here, I'll be at the party, so feel free to approach me and ask more questions.
Thank you.